Oh, Duck Doom again. Let's see. It's time for c4. e5. A very respectable way to play. Duck Doom has the advantage against me here. Let's see. He's playing the reversed Grand Prix. Can I play d5 here? He didn't bother to play knight c6 to stop it. Let's try this. I mean, this is the answer against the Grand Prix attack when the colors are reversed. So when black goes, or white goes for the original Grand Prix attack instead of preparing it with knight to c3. There's a difference here. In the reverse situation, the knight is not out yet, and so you develop the knight to f3 and then take the pawn, or f6 and take the pawn. Here I can't do that. I'll have to take with the queen if he takes. And then he gets a tempo on my queen. Well, I don't know. It should still be a playable position, but probably not the best. I don't want to try knight to b5. I suppose I could have thought about it, but looks like trouble. Trouble waiting to happen. So after knight, oh, he didn't play knight c6. He brought his queen out. Isn't that kind of a dull way to play? And let's develop a piece. So at least if he trades, I'm bringing my pieces forward. I was really expecting knight c6, and then I was wondering if I had anywhere to go with my queen other than dropping it back. But he gave me somewhere to go. It's kind of a question whether I prefer to have the queens on or not. But if I take his queen, it brings his piece forward too. Let's drop the queen back. And just argue that the queen isn't necessarily all that well placed there. It blocks the natural development of the knight. But it does put pressure on c3. So now knight to d5 here, hitting the queen, doesn't really gain anything because he can take my bishop. He can take my bishop with check. I take back, and then he has time to move his queen away. Plus his bishop is defended. So let's kick that bishop. Maybe he'll be encouraged to trade. Not. He's not encouraged. So if I play this, can he sacrifice on b4? Pawn to b4, knight to b4, pawn takes, bishop takes. Rook here defending my knight, or just moving the knight. Yeah, that should be good for me. So after I kick the bishop back, I'm going to play knight to knight to d5, forking. Not really a fork because their queen is protected, but I'm hitting the queen, so he's going to have to move it. My queen is protecting my rook, so this diagonal here is not a problem. He's got to move the queen somewhere. He could actually go to b2 if he just wanted to be annoying with this queen inside my camp. But it's not attacking anything. Everything's defended at the moment. And I'll take off this guy. Although when I take off the bishop, this rook opens up onto the a pawn, which would be under attack. So I would have to deal with that. He just dropped his queen back. Okay, so now when I take the bishop, he takes back. I need to defend this, but I can play e3. That will defend the c pawn. And I just want to get castled here. And it looks like he wants to normally develop normally. If I put the bishop here, is it going to be a target? Maybe. He could play knight to... so if I go bishop d3, he could play knight to e5. If I trade, it opens up the d file. It takes him a couple moves, but that could be an unfortunate alignment of pieces on the d file if he gets a rook there quickly somehow. It's not really happening, but I just don't want to be setting up these tactics in advance. Okay, so that's a bit annoying, isn't it? If I move my rook over to defend it, then I leave the a-pawn hanging. I really wanted to play rook c1. Let's get castled. Maybe I will get rook c1 anyway. I'll just lift up my queen, bring the rook over, and continue on. Okay, so he's going there. Knight to e4. If I go queen to c3, he's got knight e4. How about if I push this pawn? He takes, I take. He takes, I take with the queen. That gets my queen off the back rank here. Gets my knight or my pawn out of trouble. So my bishops are a little more free to play, get into the game. So I have the bishop pair here. I guess that's one advantage I have. If I could get him to move this knight away, then I would have knight to e or d4 hitting the bishop. That might be an interesting move, putting pressure on the f-pawn. I assume he wants to just push that f-pawn forward at some point, but actually I'm pretty well set up to stop that. And if I could trade my knight for his light-squared bishop, then I'd have stuff going on this diagonal. That would be nice too. Okay, but he wants to come in with his knight. That's very sensible. So if I take, he can take with the knight, or he can take my bishop. I thought he was going for my bishop. Okay, the knight can hit my bishop from that square. I can take it, can hit it from that square. Yeah, it's a bit annoying that he has a knight to e4 all the time. Let's put a rook here. Thinking maybe I'll just drop this bishop back. It doesn't seem to have many good squares at the moment. Well, all the squares are covered by his knights, except for c3, which blocks my queen and runs into knight e4. But let's see, bishop c3, knight e4, bishop back to b2. Yeah, actually that's fine. And then I could get a knight to d4. Which is what I'm aiming for here. Okay. So that happened. So knight to e4 is my next idea. So he traded rooks there. And he brought his queen in. So I've got this square covered, so I could go queen c2. He could play bishop b3, though. So let's step aside. Still want to get a knight d4. Knight takes, bishop takes. He can't easily chase me away from that square. He can push the pawn forward, but I've got it covered. He let off the pressure on my a pawn. So, kind of a funny pawn structure. Let's see. If he's got 5 pawns. I have 5 pawns, but it's 3 and 2, and I have 4 and 1. This might be a weak pawn over here in the long run. So Doc Doom, you can see, plays well. I don't know why he's rated 100 points less than me. Yeah, he spotted that idea. Okay, I'm going here anyway. I think it will be useful to get that knight into the game here. Then I'm thinking of attacking his bishop with my queen, maybe queen b2. I'm also hitting this pawn, but his queen is defending it. What else? I could drive his knight away with f3. Maybe that's a good idea, while I have these squares all covered at the moment. Because the knight coming into d2 there would be pretty annoying. f3, the knight would go back to f6. So he stepped forward with that pawn. Okay, so his queen wouldn't be tied up all the time. Yep, let's kick that knight. I want to play queen c3 and rook b1, hitting that bishop. And when it moves, I can grab a pawn. And so I needed to chase the knight away to get those moves in. Queen c3, yeah, it depends on where he goes. He could have gone back to d6 and then come over here to b5. Oh, my bishop's covering it. Okay, so queen here. Yeah, he has no way to attack the bishop. He can attack my queen. So that is knight to knight to d4 is the problem. He wants to get to that square. Okay, let's start by putting the rook here. Put a little pressure on that bishop so that when I go queen c3, I'm immediately threatening to take. Drop back right away. So now he's got that square covered. Let's attack the b pawn. Anyway, it happens. Sometimes I run into these players that seem to play really well, and I don't understand why their rating is so low. But maybe it's just a mismatch. We have different skills, and his skills are particularly effective against me, something like that. Okay, so I gave up the b pawn. Is it safe for me to take it? Is there a trap? I seem to remember there being traps here. He can push the pawn forward, attacking my bishop and the queen simultaneously, but I can take his queen with check. So here's the trap. I take, he takes my queen, I take with the rook, and he pushes forward, attacking. And then I just take the pawn. I don't think it's a trap. Oh no, it is a trap. He's attacking my rook, and he's attacking the bishop. Okay, let's push this pawn forward. Maybe that's the way he wins against me. He sets these little traps. But anyway, I stopped his pawn from coming forward. He defended his pawn. How do I make progress here? And the bishop supports pawn to a6, so if I push and he takes, his knight is looking at this square, this square, this square. Let's push forward. Okay, he just took. I was thinking if he takes, then now my pawn structure is a little better than his. I've got a regular pawn island here of one pawn group here, and he's got an isolated pawn over here. So if I take the knight, we'll end up in an opposite colored bishop endgame. So can I not take it? He can go here, 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 or here. I think it's okay. Maybe I can just pile up on that piece. He goes back. Okay, what's the next stage? There's a check on the back rank. Kind of like that. Let's see if we can annoy him a little bit. And then there's this bishop move to attack the pawn, which is pinned. Pin the pawn. Yeah, so I went for that. Can I play e4? He takes, I take, he takes, I take. I mean, there's a mate, actually, in the back corner there, right? So I just need to move this bishop with tempo. Oh. That's an easier way to mate him. Okay, I was trying to think of some complicated way to move my bishop out of the way so I could put the queen in the corner there. So anyway, a sudden end to a tough and tense game, but and I managed to even the score with Duck Doom. But you can see he is the kind of opponent that gives me trouble. Let's check that potential tactic in the end game, and I will see you then. Bye.